Okay, good afternoon. It is Sunday afternoon, and today I sang at St. Joseph's across the street from me in a quintet, and we sang the Ave Verum Corpus Christi. And it was in honor of Our Lady because he is addressed in the Ave Verum as Son of Mary. And so this was a Mozart piece, and it didn't need very much practice, so they almost didn't allow me to sing it with them, although I had sung the piece for the past 8 years. And so that's the type of music that I'm used to singing. I'm not used to singing all this other stuff that the congregation knows how to sing. You know, but they have us singing a congregational type of music, verse by verse by verse by verse. And so I try to let them in on the fact that, I'm used to singing Mozart and Schubert and Mendelssohn, if there is one. And then there's a whole bunch of, I'm used to singing stuff like in German and Latin and German and Spanish and French. I'm used to singing really complex kinds of pieces that are considered classical music, symphony style music. And there's a lot of stuff that I already know, so it's not going to need a whole lot of practice at all. Laudate Dominum, which is also Mozart. And I remember these names only because I accidentally came across them on internet when I was YouTubing. I used to think of the people at St. Mary's Church Choir as magical because they could just look at a piece and know how it goes. It wasn't until after I left St. Mary's that I realized that they weren't magic. I thought they were geniuses or something. They're YouTubing it. All you have to do is Google it, then you know how it goes. So I didn't know to do that because I didn't have one of these LG tablets. Anyways, I've also had the experience being up here that people probably can't see my stuff on their smartphones because it won't play if you upload it onto by smartphone. Then you can't also download it on smartphone. You need a regular computer to listen to it, but that's not always true. So I've had that experience a couple times, but not every time. So I don't know why I only got myself up here for viewers. But the other thing is that, so I'm hoping for more pieces like that at St. Joseph so I can feel at home in my new parish. St. Joseph's and St. Mary's are sibling parishes, right? Sort of. They just had a banquet involving the Xaverian Fathers, and they used St. Joseph's Hall. I don't know if St. Mary's Parish has been also attending over the years, but Monsignor didn't tell me about it. Maybe he would have if I didn't cancel out on him for a spiritual direction session. But I told him I had to pay the bills. And that would have been one bill I would have been able to pay. Most of the time, I haven't been able to go since Vinny died. I used to accompany him and his mother, and he's slow dancing with his mom. and he made me fast dance. And then Tyler Perry makes a play about that. I said it first, and then he makes a play about it. Right in Boo, where the music is forcing Medea to dance. She doesn't want. She says, "Stop it, stop it!" And she's like dancing. Well, I thought of that first. And then Tyler Perry wrote it into his Boo. At any rate, that happened at St. Joseph's Hall with me, and I was with Vinny. That was the second time I was there with Vinny. The first time around, it was like he was, I was Olive or Olivia. It was Olive, I think, and he was Pluto from Popeye. And he was like throwing me around the dance floor, and I was screaming. But so the second time in there, and I'm dancing this to a faster dance because Vinny wouldn't slow dance with me the second time. So they slow dancing with his mother. But most everybody else was couples. And so after they see me and Vinny, dancing in a way that's like unbecoming of a good Catholic little girl. Big little girl. So then they start the line dancing, and I don't know how to line dance. Well, anyway, since Vinny died, I don't have the money to go there for those dances, those banquets and dances. So anyways, if I hadn't canceled out on the last session before the banquet, maybe the Monsignor would have told me that there is one coming up. But he didn't. And so I visited him sometime after that for the last session, which was supposedly, I told him the 15 stations of the cross, which there are only 14, but I got the, they sometimes add a 15th station with the resurrection of Jesus, which is nice to do. And they usually do that outside, when they add a 15th station, if they have the stations of the cross up outdoors, like on a shrine at La Salette or Fatima or what have you. But, they'll add the resurrection of Jesus Christ at the end. So, for the resurrection of Jesus Christ station that I closed with for our last session of spiritual direction, we celebrated the sacrament of reconciliation or confession or penance or whatever you want to call it. And I had to confess what I normally had been confessing and just reviewed, But I normally had struggled with any borderline rage in the past. That was necessarily a bad influence. I know you're not supposed to repeat what you say in the sacrament of confession, but I mean, you certainly don't have to. You're under no obligation to, But so here I am, and wanted to come up here and talk about some of the issues. And the dream that I had following the celebration of the sacrament of reconciliation or holy confession or penance or whatever you call it. Then I had a dream either on the same night or on the following night, one of those. So it was either within the past few days, either on a Thursday or Friday or so, that I had that dream. And it was a kind of a supernatural experience. So I, instead of altogether giving him the slip, when I said, because I had originally stated that we could just close at the 15 stations of the cross and then, I'll come to his Bible studies. We were just going to keep it ongoing if I had chosen to remain with him reflecting on Bible studies, if I had chosen the Bible study route, which I didn't do. I didn't choose the Bible study route. Well, initially I did, but they weren't in session. So they had canceled a couple times, and so I decided to go along with the choir. And one time the choir rehearsal was canceled, so I visited the Bible study. I don't know if I already came up here to report on that and went over the details of the Bible study or not, but we talked about that on the 15th session. And he was teaching on a somewhat of a different interpretation for what the Protestant leader had come up with. Otherwise it's an ecumenical sort of a Bible study that was held at St. Joseph's Hall. So so he went over, he gave it a different take on it, and I don't quite recall so much of it, but what I did resolve is that I generally prefer a Catholic interpretation to sacred scripture. Anyway, and so this is despite the fact that there's all these abuses that were reported having taken place over the past 100 years and that we're discovering now. So that was majorly the reason why I continued to investigate or report or process this dilemma that I have about having a Catholic faith, wanting to express it, but feeling held up because of these reports about abuse within the past century and a half or so. And so that's what we have been going over in the 15 sessions. That plus the fact that I had, been a visionary for the Catholic Church. And again, the only thing that I can report as positively, without a doubt, supernatural in the course of reason was one experience that happened in 1982. And that's when my soul was taken out of body beyond a lunar eclipse. And I could see it, soul out of body. And then I was placed back on earth in my body, awoken, and then I saw the same exact lunar eclipse with the naked eye. And so I'm seeing it the same way. And then it was verified a few hours later that everybody else saw it too, in the Boston area. So I couldn't so easily dismiss it from my mind because it was widely reported that this actually took place. And I saw it for the first time while my body lay asleep. And then I saw it for the second time with the naked eye. So that's the only thing that's not necessarily Catholic, That's the only thing that I could positively say without a doubt is supernatural. And since then, I've had a lot of Catholic experiences in my sleep. in a dream state. And, I've probably explained up here that the Lord, I can venture to guess that the Lord would rather preserve me from undergoing the scrutiny that I would have otherwise undergone. Although I underwent severe scrutiny just for having dreams. Severe scrutiny just for having dreams that I swore were supernatural. So can you imagine if, I were an actual seer of the Blessed Virgin? The Lord didn't think that it was my time to handle anything like that. Or he may have estimated that it could have, for me, it could have been even worse than what it already was, just for having dreams. So I've been up here reporting dreams, and I think that other people also have come up here reporting dreams, and they are a lot more popular for it, just for reporting dreams. And they could swear they were real. So a dream that I had a few nights ago, following the 15th station, as it were, was that, and don't forget, we had celebrated the sacrament of penance or reconciliation or holy confession, whatever you want to call it. And so sleeping, I had asked the Lord. First, I saw a few pictures of young children that I knew, and I had asked the Lord if a friend, an old acquaintance of mine, also who had been associated with Vinny, had any exposure to the Ninth Circle occult. And then the answer came in my conscience that probably not on purpose, right? So the Lord answered me otherwise. And after he had answered me, I was reminded that, yes, it was very much on purpose with her, that she had been involved with the occult. That she was quite disobedient, and she wasn't involved with the occult in the as formal and as religious a sense as you normally think of occult worshippers, but she definitely would seek out the soothsayers and fortune tellers and this and that and the other thing, and she'd go around accusing innocent people of witchcraft when it was she herself that was seeking out the witches. She was seeking them out, and then she'd go around accusing innocent Catholics of witchcraft. She'd accuse me of it, and I didn't know the first thing about it. She's going around accusing, innocent Christians of witchcraft when she was the one that was practicing it. She was seeking out soothsayers, and God only knows what they taught her. So she was quite slanderous in my regard, and basically she would be slandering. She demanded that people help her. She would accost people in the streets to force them into basically living her life for her, and and enslave people to her, and then she would slander them and accuse them of abuse after bankrupting them. She'd accuse them of stealing from her, or using her, or award herself with the Medal of Honor for heroic whatever. in their lives, while she was turning their lives inside out and upside down and throwing them down the stairs, having forced them to help her. So she would do this, role reversal and misrepresent people all over the state. Of all over the state. Everybody in the state knows who this woman is. And she would just exploit every missionary in her life. And she would turn them into missionaries and just use them up and use them up and use them up. Until they, entirely burnt out and placed us in danger. And our reputations, when a person's reputation is in danger, you're also placing them in physical danger as well. So that happens with or without this woman, in my life. People just tend to do that to me anyways, because they're feeling conceited about themselves and think me unworthy of any honor whatsoever. And so they belong to the you go down, I go up club. There's a lot of people like that. But this woman who was an entitled brat, in the good days, is an entitled brat in the bad. Even, more so when she gets people doing her bidding. And so anyway, the dream that I had, it was about her. And I had asked the Lord if she, I had either asked myself, or maybe I had asked the Lord, if she had been involved with the Ninth Circle occult. And I said, well, probably not on purpose. And then the Lord showed me otherwise, as a result of having sought out these soothsayers. And so, in the dream, I perceived that she was in hellfire. And I could be wrong about how I interpreted the dream, but I'm pretty sure that I understood the screamer in hellfire to be her. That she is at this time deceased and in hell for turning her back, for betraying the trust of the Lord, for her idolatry, for seeking out the soothsayers. And I perceived that that was the main reason. Not so much because of the way she threw the rest of us down the stairs who were dragged into helping her, but because she was seeking out the soothsayers. And when I woke up from the dream, I started using the internet, as I usually do, YouTube. And the first thing I see is that Kavanaugh is being targeted by witches on the left. And that they were, what do you call that? Vexing or something? Hexing him. And so it was like confirmation about this problem in the United States today, or in the world today, that people think that they can use the dark side to their own advantage, and you cannot. It's playing with fire. Satan has a will of his own. So no matter what your intentions are, you're not allowed to do that. And you will be in over your head if you do. So anyways, after experiencing her pain to a degree because of where she was, I woke up asking the Lord to forgive me, and I started to try to reason or explain to Jesus what it was that I was sorry about, and I was apologizing for unbridled anger. So I had a lot of anger toward her, and toward the company that she would keep. And so that was, I had known her at an earlier time in life, and that was the first time that I had unbridled my anger, was because of her influence in my life with the company that she would keep. And so my little daughter was witnessing, some of this self-flagellation, as it were, from borderline rage. Only on the psychological, emotional sort of end of things. In my prayers, are interrupted with all the borderline rage towards this woman and the company that she would keep. So I felt betrayed, and I was kind of like ruining myself over it, hurting myself over it. Anyways, at least my little daughter was, playing with her little friends across the street while I was going through this horrible struggle. And she was about 6 years old. So then the woman came back into my life when she was turning herself out into the streets in snow blizzards. She had come into my life years and years and years later. And anyways, I was trying to take care of her and help her out and all of this, and she'd just mutilate me and reputation for it. And I wasn't the only one she'd mutilate. She'd mutilate anybody and everybody that ever tried to help her. So, I had this experience that she was in hellfire, and it might not have been. Could have been purgatory, who knows. But in my estimation, it was hellfire. And I woke up asking the Lord to forgive me for my borderline rage around, around knowing her. And as I was explaining to the Lord why he ought to forgive me, or what it was I was processing in this and that, trying to reason with him, he didn't even allow me to hardly begin my explanation before he lifted it from me, and I could see that he had forgotten my sin, as it were. He had removed my sin as far as the east is from the west. So that was what that was one thing that I had experienced since the closing session of the 15th station. There is more that I've experienced since, but I'm going to close this video for now because it's getting long.